First of all, Sana, in a serious situation, in a serious agenda of such nature, you would create an opportunity for the key stakeholders to have a full insight as to what you intend to present, so that before they come even to the table, they have an idea of what to expect. And then they would also prepare and then be able to meet you adequately. And then they'll be able to come with their questions, etc., etc. Let's face it, Senna, the technical presentation that was done, what do you think would be the knowledge of the eminent committee, the Emmy Short, etc., etc.? What do you think their knowledge would be when it comes to that particular presentation that was done? That should give you a first clue that the people that are mediating, the people that are supposed to advise, they themselves are in the dark. They don't have that competence to be able to advise on that part. Therefore, it could be back and forth between the stakeholders, and they will just be there and just be listening because they have no clue. Now, back to the subject matter, Senna. The whole thing has to do with the change of the voters register. And clearly, the NDC has also, which is the biggest political party in Ghana, has also stated that, look, there's no need for a change of the voters register because there's nothing wrong with the voters register. We've had almost 25 CSOs who have also joined the call to tell the Electoral Commission that, look, you don't sound convincing enough. You've not provided any data to suggest that the voters register currently is not credible and cannot be used for the 2020 elections. Suffice to note, we all know that this voters register have been used twice ever since Jane Mensah came to office. That is for the referendum and the just ended assembly election. Therefore, it then goes a long way to affirm the position of the NDC and other CSOs that indeed there's no need for the change of the voters register unless you have any other evidence, proof, or facts to suggest that indeed we need a new voters register. Now, every argument that they've made, in as much as they've contradicted themselves over and over again and they've gone around in circles and just ridiculed themselves and showed how myopic they are when it comes to technology, they still go ahead and do these things. Everything they've done, they discussed yesterday had to do with a hardware problem, so-called hardware problems. It has nothing to do with the actual data itself. Indeed, they acknowledge that there seems not to be no problem whatsoever with the voters register itself. Okay, you talk of kits, the BVRs, so on and so forth. That is not the database. That's not the software. These are output devices. Okay, these are not the main center of which the data is kept. Therefore, when it comes to the data, it is accurate. So shift the argument. If you want to shift the argument, shift it to the hardware issue and go ahead with your procurement and then add, create, loot, and share. That would be understandable. But don't try to muddy the waters, make it so murky by bringing in the software, which is the voters register. Look at all the technical issues that he raised. Sana, indeed, there would be no time looking at what they put out for the other IT team to interrogate further. But I can tell you, Sana, it will take me 10 minutes just to shoot the whole thing down. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. What has it is quite technical. Therefore, I don't know how I can present it in a way that it will not be technical.
Go ahead.
What has,
okay, so go ahead. If there are issues that need to be simplified and explained to our listeners, I will draw attention to them so that they can explain it a bit better.
Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Okay, Senna, for example, they drew a whole architect, right? And then they put in the diagrams, so on and so forth, to show how the processes were done. That was, first of all, irrelevant to the matter. It was irrelevant to the subject matter. Okay. Now, You raised issue about latency. Now, latency is where, for example, the communication you and I are having. Maybe when I speak, it's going to take maybe 10 seconds before it gets to you. And therefore, the communication will not be that smooth. And I guess you experience that about when the network is quite slow.
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
from one end. Yes, that is called latency. Latency then comes in. The latency that they raise, it only comes in when there's data transmission. Now, you see, I don't want to be sound technical.
No, go ahead.
Even
Go ahead.
latency,
I think it's a technical issue that they are maybe they are
okay,
misinforming us. So if you understand the way it works, it's very important to hear you out.
Okay. So let me tell you something. When you input a data, when you type punch a keyboard, right? That is supposed to transfer data from maybe one computer to the other, or from one client to the other. Now it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth 8 times. After 8 times, it truncates. That means the data is corrupted. It cannot be found. If the data doesn't get truncated, it gets delayed because of the low bandwidth. So therefore, you have to increase your bandwidth. Okay, so that is a separate discussion. That is the ISP provider or the internet service provider. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I get you.
Yes, that issue has nothing to do with the register. That issue has nothing to do with the register. Now, they raised issue about the SATs, the VSATs, the infrastructure that carries the whole data, transmission, and they said when the weather is that bad, so on and so forth, it can disrupt the process. Yes, we agree, but it is far better. And then let's even go into you see, this is so technical. I don't even know why they should even bring this thing to the table now. Under serious bad weather condition, of which we are even yet to experience that in Ghana. We are yet to experience that in Ghana. You would have the clouds, being all noisy, and therefore data transmission becomes a bit difficult. Unlike when it is, going through the regular channels and cables, on land where there could be so many interferences. Going through the air, it's much safer, much faster than going through the land. So that issue itself is also a non-starter. It has no relevance to do with the voters register. Then again, it is all about networking. Let me put all those things under networking and configuration. Okay, now you bring it down again. They raised the issue about the BVR kit, saying that some of the challenges include the fact that it was purchased in 2011. They did not state what the problems are with those BVRs. All they said is that it was purchased in 2011. And then they said that they bought another 500, so on and so forth. And the sensor for capturing has worn out, and therefore it makes it difficult for the system to capture. All these issues that you've raised, Sena, it has no relevance to do with the software, the actual database that is sitting somewhere relaxing. These are devices that you would have to connect or link to the mainframe to be able to do data transmission. That is all. So it is clear cut that they just want to go ahead and do some huge procurement and bag some money home, and then also sell this whole idea that the data is not credible, and therefore we have to create a whole new database. When you ask them, what are you going to do with the current voters register, they'll tell you that they would maintain it. So if you feel it is not credible, why would you want to maintain it? It makes no sense. And I believe that with time we will take our time and then deal with these matters.
Because
I think that is what it requires.
We need to deal with it, because from what you're saying that the only circumstance under which they should be considering compiling a voters register is if there were integrity issues with the data itself and not the hardware.
Yes, not the hardware. They are two separate things. Now let me tell you something. In the software, okay, listen to this carefully. Software sits on the hardware. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yes.
Before a software functions properly, it sits on hardware. Now the software comes with its own requirement. Maybe it will say that maybe I need 30 gigabytes of memory for fast data processing and storage, because memory itself has its own storage. I'm sorry if I'm getting too technical. Maybe it will require 2 terabytes of hard drive based on the quantum of data, and also the type of operating system, because there's something we call their engines that makes it work. Okay, so that you get all the requirements of the software, and then you buy the required hardware or the required computer so that the software can sit on it, and then you can go ahead with your installation. Okay, now if your hardware is correct and your software is sitting on it, you have no problem. So the issue right now as we speak, and I can tell you, it is not a software problem. It is just almost 10% of a hardware problem due to lack of maintenance, our bad culture when it comes to maintenance.
You said
That is where we have the
10%
challenge.
of a hardware problem. So which means that you don't even think
Yes,
that the entire hardware has an issue.
No, it is not. And if you look at the presentation, they couldn't tell where the problem lies. They were not specific to say this hardware is not performing because of X, Y, and Z. None. I can tell you, anyone who believes that otherwise, we can go through it. None. It was purchased in 2011, and so what? Tell me what the problem is. What is wrong with that particular system or those devices? Are you trying to tell me that you were able to use this for the assembly election, and all of a sudden it is obsolete? Did somebody smashed it on the ground? You see, so when you decide to delve into all these things, you realize that it is just another waste of resources. They just want to, procure and make some huge money elsewhere and change the system and go home free with their monies. But technically, they are corrupt. They have their level of IT knowledge is so poor. I am surprised that the IT boss at Electoral Commission has not been fired. I have been listening to all the arguments he's made over the years and over the period, and I can tell you, just an A+ hardware person can even floor that guy. He's so incompetent. It's so nauseating. He's a non-starter, and that's the reason why we are in the situation we're in. He's misleading the people, and therefore they also come out and mislead themselves, and they make mockery. But unfortunately, the EC and a section of the public, because they might not be all that IT savvy, they come out and put all these things out, and people just jump on it. They should provide us vivid information, vivid data that says that indeed this is where the problem lies and this is the solution. You talk of storage capacity. If for example, Sena, let me give you an example of the storage issue that they raised. If you feel that maybe the too much data has been inputted in the system, and therefore your storage capacity cannot contain, what do? You only get a bigger device that has a huge storage capacity, and then you do what? You migrate it onto it. That's it. Okay. Now they said, you see, this is so. I feel so comfortable discussing this issue because it shows how inept they are and incompetent they are. One of the key points that they raised said that they did a poor detailed documentation of the infrastructure. Sena, I can tell you, in as much as I am not at the Electoral Commission, any smart IT guy, when you see an infrastructure, you can draw the whole system as it's been done because you know what these devices do. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, yes.
You can look at it and tell that, okay, these are the servers, these are the computers, these are the routers, these are the modems, these are the, all the devices. You can easily tell and say, oh, okay, they adapted this particular system, even to the point of configuration with the IP addresses. I'm sorry if I'm getting all technical. I don't know. This is technical, so let me just go at it. Okay, even with the IP addresses, you could say that, okay, they use class A, class B, class C, etc., etc. Okay, they have this as a public IP or this whatever it is. Whether I'm using a DHCP, that is dynamic host configuration protocol, etc. You see, it's a whole technical thing, but I can tell you, it's just a waste of time. It is just a waste of everybody's time. Okay, they are clueless. They have no idea. They shouldn't have done that presentation at all. At all. It lies flat on the face. It shows how inept they are. And I believe that with time, the IT team and the NDC and other stakeholders would interrogate it further, and then they will expose the EC and the head of IT for how inept and cruel they are trying to be to the people of Ghana. This has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the database, i.e., the voters register.
You talk about, because you keep referring to the man who is in charge of IT at the Electoral Commission. You've spoken about ineptitude.
He's just a waste. He's just a waste. He's just a waste. I'll tell you the truth.
You think he's not qualified to even sit there?
No, not at all. He should be fired. He should be fired ASAP. If he was the one that had been advising EC, and then led this presentation, or whoever that led it, look, he's just a waste. He's just a waste. Please, if you can get him on the line, and let's have a different conversation. I'll be very glad to have a conversation with a man based on whatever that they put out there, and then we shall see how it affects the voters register, and let him explain, and then we can go into it. How does networking issue got to do with the voters register? How does a hardware issue go to do with the voters register? Is the data corrupted? Is it inaccurate? Have you identified any more practices in there? Was the data accessed remotely? Has somebody deleted something in the system? And they say they can't even do a backup.
I know.
I don't know. I don't know how
I'll come back because you sound shocked and amazed. But before I come back there, you are saying that based on your understanding of the way these things work, we shouldn't even be getting to the point where the Electoral Commission is even thinking about compiling a new voters register.
No, not at all. Not at all. Sena, let me tell you the circumstances that could lead for a new voters register. Primarily, it is only when the data has been compromised. And here, data compromise means that either somebody have gotten access to the information, or the data has been manipulated and therefore it is inaccurate, or the data has been, attacked by some viruses and it has eaten certain portions, and to the point that it cannot be recovered. And due to the sensitivity of what the data is going to be used for, you would want to, compile a new system. In the absence of these, if nobody has deleted anything, if no one has taken or added anything to it, if there's no virus, you have no basis. You have no basis. Now, when you say, let me even bring you to the point here. When you say that the system can be remotely be accessed, it has nothing to do with the voters register. It has everything to do with your configuration. That is technical. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yes. If for example, if I want to jump into EC's database, I'm not going to jump into the system based on the software. It is based on certain configurations that I would have to do to be able to jump in and do whatever I want to do. But if the EC decides to put in a certain mechanism, some other configurations or technical, firewalls, whatever, I might not be able to get in there and do whatever I want to do. So if you talk of manipulation, what it basically means is that there has to be some security work that has to be done, and it has nothing to do with the software. Here then comes in the IT administrator or whoever is the technical lead to put in the right configuration and the right strategy and structures to make sure that the infrastructure is well protected. So there's no basis. There's no basis. Like I said, if you can get the best IT guy they think they have in there for us to have a conversation, I will be glad to have this anytime, any day. I have not even spent even 20 minutes looking into whatever they put out there because I've been working the whole time. But glancing through it, you get so pissed off and you just have to move on. You get so pissed off. And, it's an insult to Emil Schultz in the team for sitting out there to be, dribbled with some of these technical things, thinking that they could throw dust in the eyes of everybody. Unfortunately, it did not fly. It did not fly.
It's quite understandable because it's a much more. There are people who are in the advanced generation, and a lot of them may not be so familiar the way these things work.
Exactly. So they themselves were square pegs in round hole. You bring them there to sit down there to mediate and to listen to what? So you can bamboozle everybody with some of these technicalities, and you draw all. See, what they did yesterday is like somebody who has drawn Ghana map upside down. And then because they've drawn Ghana map upside down, they think that the Ghanaians and the regions, they're all upside down. No, It is just you that has run the thing upside down, but the content still remains the way it is. The database still remains the way it is. It is just, facade that you put around it. It's cloud.
Would the
It's just cloud.
exercise have been much more efficient if the committee, instead of relying on their own understanding, had perhaps gotten an independent person who understands the solution to sit in and then perhaps advise everybody as to the way to go, since the EC and the party seem to disagree on the way forward?
That would have been much better. That would have been much better. But you see, they don't think that they don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know the right thing. But at this juncture, they feel that if they decide to do the right thing, they'll be more exposed. Therefore, they will, push this thing down the throat of people. And that's exactly the reason why they went into this direction. Okay. The whole presentation is just shambolic. It is technically flawed. It makes no sense, and none of the issues raised had even 0.001% to do with the register. The register is still intact. They've still not touched it. They've still not given a reason why the register has to be changed. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
To those of us who do not understand exactly the way these things work, I'm going to ask 3 last questions. The first one, because of the issue they are raising, that it was procured in 2011. How long can data of this sort or a system of this sort be used before you can get to the point of deciding that we should change it? Perhaps go back and collect new data.
Okay. All right. First of all, Sena, every device has its own lifespan. Okay. Every device has its own lifespan. They've not been able to put out, the lifespan of these devices. Now, secondly, what is key is maintenance. Maintenance is the primary and the most fundamental thing that has to be done. So if it was purchased in 2011, and come on, is this thing used on a daily basis? Is it used on a daily basis where you could say that it's been running a whole 24-hour cycle? These devices only come in at certain moments, at certain times, perform functions, and they are put back. As and when it is needed, then they are used. And you're talking of months. So these 2011 devices should even go a decade to some extent. If you have good cultural maintenance practice, it is not the year purchase, but it is how it's been used. It's like buying a car. If I buy a 2010 car, okay, and I've only driven 100 miles on it, what does that got to do with the fact that it was purchased in 2011? It means that the engine is not working, or it's not supposed to function properly. It's just 100 miles on it, so it's still brand new. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But if I pour kerosene in the tank, if I put wrong stuff in the engine, it doesn't matter. That one, even if it is a day or two, the engine will collapse. Therefore, it is the maintenance. It is how you handle it, how you manage it. So the year of purchase has nothing to do with the lifespan of the purchase of it.
The other question I'm asking is that based on what you've heard, you are saying that basically they're just trying to procure it so that they can chop from it. Is that what you're saying? So this is chop.
It's just create, loot and share. 100% create, loot and share. 100% create, loot and share. Therefore, you see, and that is the more reason why, Sena, you see, they are so desperate and they are making the errors, and it's so clear. They are going all out on the hardware, the BVR kits, the this, the that, without touching the so-called main issue, which is the software. So they've given every reason why to suggest that the kit, we need a new system in place. We need a new hardware. So they can go and buy them. That's all.
What about their justifications of also saying that, okay, so our solution providers, that's STL, we've decided to abrogate our contract with them, so we do not still have access to the data. They are the ones who are holding the data for us. What about that part? How because they've said that. How isn't that enough justification for the compilation?
No. Sena, when they say it's all contractual. Okay, it could be contractual. I'll admit I haven't seen the contract, therefore I can't tell what the details are. Now, the data is supposed to be 100% for Ghanaians. Do you get what I'm trying to say? The data is 100% for Ghanaians. It is being stored or managed by STL. It doesn't mean that STL owns the data in there. They are only managers of the data. Okay, the data doesn't belong to them. It belongs to Ghana. We paid for it. Their job is to manage it. Therefore, if you claim that you don't have access to the data and they've taken the data, that means that, so how were they able to conduct the assembly election? What data did they use? Did they compile a new system if they don't have access to it? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So clearly they have no case. You see, like I said, it's so nauseating, and it's a total balderdash. Pardon my French. It's a total balderdash. It makes no sense. They just want to, take the money and chop and wreck the system. But, they could have done a better job. This is way, way pitiful.
I know. Well, the way you are sounding, it's like as if you feel a little embarrassed about what was done yesterday, listening to them. But that the Electoral Commission is actually saying this publicly, and they don't feel ashamed of doing that. That's the impression I'm getting from what you're saying.
I am embarrassed and I'm disgusted that my own people can't get the basics right. They can't even get the basics right. And if you want to present this to the world, everybody will be looking at you, and in their mind, they will draw conclusions about you. What they did, I can tell you, this is for up-and-coming IT guys who are struggling to understand how system works. But to have an IT manager, a whole IT manager of an electoral commission, to come and put this thing out and be you know what? Look, with time, I think that they themselves will bow their heads in shame. But they're a total disgrace. They are a fiasco and a nuisance to Ghana. I'm telling you, they're a nuisance to Ghana. If they can raise their head and watch the eyes of Ghanaians who are suffering, and their conscience will serve them right and say that, look, what we did yesterday, or the reasons that we've given, it's enough to be able to procure these items and get a new voters register. It means they have no fear in God. The fear of God is not in them.